When the monopoly of life shifts, why corporate housing is the new power move. Let me tell you something that may change the way you see money forever. We're living in a time where the monopoly of life has shifted. And when I say monopoly, I'm talking about the board game. I'm talking about control over housing, control over income, control over every opportunity, control over mobility, control over leverage. There was a time when the monopoly belonged to the corporations that owned the buildings, the hotel chains, the landlords who inherited the property, the institutions who decided who could stay and who couldn't stay, right? Or who couldn't earn access to the opportunities. But that time has shifted. If you understand the shift, you're in position right now on the right side of wealth. Welcome to corporate housing. The old model versus the new model. The old model, you had two lanes. You either owned real estate or you worked for someone who did. That's where it was. And if you didn't have capital, and if you didn't have inheritance, and if you didn't have a perfect credit score, then you were locked out of this wealth conversation. Hotels control short-term stays. Apartment complexes control long-term stays. Corporations sign 5 or 10-year leases. And every day an entrepreneur had almost no entry point. But then something happened. The workforce changed. Mobility increased. Remote work exploded. Companies began relocating employees temporarily. Travel nurses, that multiplied. Construction projects expanded. Consultants started flying into cities, and suddenly the world needed more flexible housing, not just hotels. Not traditional year-long leases either. They needed furnished, midterm, high-quality professional housing. That's corporate housing. And this is where the monopoly shifted. What corporate housing really is, let me define it clearly. Corporate housing is furnished, short-term to mid-term rental property designed for professionals, travelers, workers, and business clients. This includes travel nurses, medical professionals, corporate executives, construction managers, insurance displacement clients, government contractors, film crews, tech consultants, relocation clients. And these are not party guests. They're professionals on assignment. They have at least 30 to 60 to 90-day stays and sometimes longer. They're paid by employers, shifting agencies, insurance companies, government contracts. This is a stable demand. This is a strategic demand. It is a high quality demand. And this is where opportunity lives. Why corporate housing is different from the regular Airbnb? Now let me clear something up. It's not just about chasing weekend bookings. This is not about hoping someone books on Friday through Sunday. This is not about constantly flipping the calendar every 2 days. Corporate housing is different. It's about longer stays, longer turnovers, higher sustainability, professional guests, business relationships. Instead of 15 bookings per month, you might get one instead of constant cleaning. You might clean once every 30 to 60 days instead of the unpredictable demand of building contracts. You build partnerships, you build systems. And when you build systems, you scale. The Wealth Academy perspective. At Wealth Academy, we don't just teach Airbnb, we position you to leverage it. Now, place yourself in the money that's already flowing, which is corporate housing. It's not about convincing people to travel. It's already just solving a problem that already exists. Hospitals already need nurses. Construction companies already need managers. Insurance companies already need housing for displaced families. Corporations already relocate employees. The demand is already there. The question is, will you position yourself to serve it? The monopoly of life. When monopoly of life shifts, power shifts. And right now, mobility is power. Companies no longer require everyone to sit in one building for 20 years. Assignments are temporary. Projects are temporary. Teams are remote. Housing is a must, and the person who is controlled flexible housing controls the access. Let that sink in. If a hospital brings in 25 travel nurses and they are only 10 quality furnished units in the area, who has the leverage? The person who owns and controls those units. Not the nurses, not the hospital, not the staffing agency. You. This is basically modern leverage. You don't own it, but you control it. And now here's why people get stuck. They say, I don't have money to buy a building. You don't need to. You need control. Control can come from master leases, rental arbitrage, partnerships, co-hosting, and managing property agreements. Now, if you're in a building hosting service business, not just buying property, you are building relationships with landlords, corporations, staffing agencies, insurance providers. And when you control access, you control revenue. When you control systems, you control scale. Why corporate clients are better? Let's talk about the quality. Corporate guests have predictable schedules, are on assignment, have per diem budgets, are background checked, travel for work, not vacation. They're not coming to party, and they're not trying to see what happens. They're here to work. That changes everything because it reduces risk, it increases sustainability, it improves your brand, and it elevates your business. And when you position yourself as a professional housing, you attract professional money. Brand matters. You're not just an Airbnb host. You're a housing solution partner. You're our corporate housing. You are relocation support. You are extended stay specialist. The language matters. The branding matters. The way you present yourself matters. When you speak the corporate language, corporate clients listen. When your property looks exclusive, hey, you're going to get some exclusive dollars and companies trust you. This is business to business energy. The numbers make sense. Let's break it down why this model works financially. If you rent a unit for $2,000 a month and you furnish it strategically and you rent it to a travel nurse for $3,500 per month, that's $1,500 per month gross margin before expenses. And you're not doing all that cleaning. Now, multiply that by 5 units, by 10 units, by 20 units. This becomes predictable monthly revenue, not random nightly swings. It's predictable. And predictable income builds freedom, risk management. Every business has risk, but corporate housing mitigates those and some major risk of traditional short-term rentals. Fewer parties, fewer complaints, fewer neighbor issues, lower cleaning frequency, longer booking windows. You also diversify by building multiple demand streams. Direct booking agencies, contracts, insurance placements. Airbnb midterm stays, diversification is strength, and strength builds sustainability. Systems over emotions. That is not about excitement. It's about systems. You need furnished standards and cleaning protocols, lease agreements, corporate contracts, pricing strategy, lead generation process. And when you systemize, you remove chaos. And when you remove chaos, you build scalability. It's not about a one-sided hustle. This is structure. It's business energy. It's local strategy. It's corporate housing thrives in specific areas, near hotels, near construction projects, near business districts, near military bases, near universities, near corporate campuses. You study demand first. You don't just guess. You don't hope. You analyze. You go where travel nurses are working, where they're a major employer expanding, where their insurance claim rising due to natural disasters. Data guesses distractions. The long-term vision. Corporate housing is not a trend. It's a response to a permanently changing workforce. Remote work is not disappearing. Project-based work is increasing. Companies are optimizing flexibility. Housing must match that flexibility. This model aligns with where the world is going. And when you align with the direction of the world, you move with the momentum instead of against it. From scarcity to strategy. Some people still operate from scarcity. So you get all these complaints. They won't pick me. There's too much competition. I don't have enough money. But competition thins out at the professional level. Most people stay at the hobby level. When you step up into professional branding, corporate outreach, contract negotiation, systems thinking, you move into a smaller, more serious pool. And that pool pays better. Building relationships with agencies, staffing agencies are gold. Travel nurse agencies need housing consistently. Introduce yourself professionally. Send capable statements. Show them your units. Offer consistent service. When you become better at the go-to provider, they send repeat business. And repeat business builds predictable income. Predictable income builds confidence. Confidence builds expansion. Insurance housing, the hidden giant. When a home floods or burns or suffers damage, insurance companies must relocate families. These families need furnished housing for 3 to 12 months. Hotels are expensive. Long term, corporate housing is cost effective and comfortable. If you build relationships with insurance adjusters and the housing placement companies, you unlock another demand stream. This is not talked about enough, but it's powerful. The identity shift, the business requires an identity shift. You're not trying Airbnb, you're building a housing empire. Speak differently, think differently, operate differently, track your numbers, track your occupancy, track your lead source, track your margins. Professionals track metrics, hobbyists track vibes. Decide which one you are. Scaling intentionally. Scaling is not about rushing. It's about replicating a proven model. One unit, stabilize it, document the process, refine the system, then 2, then 5, then 10 units. Each unit should feel easier than the last because the system is compound. Why it matters for wealth. Wealth is not about flashy moments. It's about control, repeated cash flow. Corporate housing offers higher sustainability than nightly Airbnb, more flexibility than long-term rentals, more professionalism than causing hosts, more leverage than traditional employees. When you combine cash flow with ownership or control, you build assets, and assets change your life. When the monopoly of the life shifts, you move. The monopoly has shifted. Institutions no longer control all the access. Platforms create openings. Mobility created demand. Technology created visibility. And now the question is whether the opportunity exists. It's whether you position yourself correctly. Corporate housing is not a hype. It's an infrastructure. It's a service. It's a solution. It's a strategy. And this strategy wins for the long term. Trust me, I know. Final word. At the Airbnb Wealth Academy, we don't chase noise. We study structure. We identify leverage. We build systems. Corporate housing is one of the clearest wealth pathways in today's flexible economy. It doesn't require millions. It requires clarity. It requires professionalism. It requires execution. When the monopoly of life shifts, you don't panic. You pivot. You position. You build. And control your lane. This is not about Airbnb. This is corporate housing. This is leverage. This is the Airbnb Wealth Academy.